Hey guys, welcome back. bdckr here, and we're back with another Q&A slash update. And in these videos, we normally do focus more on the Q&A rather than the update, but today we're going to switch it around a little bit. Recently, we have not been doing the updates for Mortal Kombat X or WWE Immortals, but we're going back, at least to Mortal Kombat X, because in the most recent update, they released a new Diamond Tier character. And whether this actually makes it over to Injustice or not, three new Diamond Tier characters, and whether this actually makes it over to Injustice or not, we have seen mechanics in one of the games being later updated into the other games based off of how it goes over. So it is possible, though we don't know how likely, that this might be something similar to a future update to Injustice. Now, we normally don't like to do that kind of speculation, but in this case, the Diamond Tier characters are actually a very significant update for the Mortal Kombat X formula. So it would also be pretty cool if it happened to Injustice. It would be pretty significant.
So some of the things that are pretty obvious here is, besides the fact that it's the power creep, right? So you've got these tier characters, when we sort it by attack, they've got pretty much the highest attack, and they've got almost the highest health, but definitely the highest combined. So it's a step above gold, but there's a few other features that are even more. So more than just the higher stats, they've got an extra equipment slot. And if you look at it, in Mortal Kombat at least, they've organized it in terms of
Weapon, armor, and accessory, yeah.
Right, and the last slot, which they've added, is any one of the three. So it's basically your choice of whatever it is, which is hugely powerful. I mean, if you did that in Injustice, you could have the gear set properties of two different gear sets.
Yeah, for everything except for the third ability. Or, sorry, not the third. I guess in that case it would be like the fourth ability, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But then you can pick and choose, because sometimes, you don't want everything from one.
Yeah.
And that would be hugely powerful. The other thing is that the passive, not only is it good, so when they tag in causing bleeds with 80% chance of stun, which is pretty big. I mean, that's bigger than anybody in Injustice, right? Because Luchador Bane is the only one that's got it, and
yeah.
He stuns less than half the time when he comes in. So everyone on our team deals 80% more damage on all fire, poison, and bleed damage over time. And if you'll notice something, there's actually 3 bars. You can basically promote the passive
to 100%, yeah. So this is actually kind of interesting. It is super, super cheap, right? Like, as far as the price goes, it is worth almost nothing compared to how much it costs just for chances at getting the cards themselves. But this would actually be something really, really interesting if it moved over to Injustice.
Now, one of the mechanics that came from Mortal Kombat to Injustice was the chance at something. So these were, if you haven't seen it yet, you might not want to watch the whole thing, but we opened 100 Elite packs that were sort of like a gold or a challenge pack that cost more souls. And the drop rate was not great. It was about a 2% chance for any one of these out of the 100 packs, so combined a 6% chance of not even of one of the 3. So you can't really promote them properly.
Yeah.
So it's the whole mechanic of randomness, high cost, and the same frustration of not getting what you want. So it's interesting, it's a little bit scary. I hear what you're saying about how this would be really cool and it would make it really interesting. The only good thing about it so far is that because it's definitely higher tier and the matchmaking in Mortal Kombat is actually decent, when you play these guys maxed out, you're only facing other hackers on it. So it hasn't gotten this account banned yet to play with them, but it actually means that there's almost a second tier where, it's possible that somebody's got enough souls to get 1 or 2 of these guys, but to have them fully promoted, you're going to be facing a bunch of them, but clearly everybody's hacking when they get there.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. It is mostly cool in relation to the mechanics. I think actually getting them is incredibly frustrating, and I think that's always been probably the main problem with Mortal Kombat X is actually the distribution channels for acquiring characters. especially for gold characters and with the soul currency, has always been pretty lacking. And much, much worse than Injustice, though some people might even argue that Injustice doesn't have a great distribution kind of plan as far as the costs of everything.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Alright, so moving along.
In Injustice, there was actually a little bit of news. There was a huge problem last week on September 21st when Warner Brothers was upgrading their servers. And they said it was only a day, but it seemed to last a lot longer than that for a lot of players. And we answered a bunch of comments individually and linked to the forum post by Warner Brothers. But since we are YouTube only, we don't really have a quick way of letting people know. So the next time something like that happens, you can just take a look at the comments in our latest video to see if the question's been answered. But one thing that's actually kind of interesting is that YouTube is, we don't know exactly when, rolling out a new feature called the Communities tab, which is kind of just like a micro social media, almost like a little Google Plus page, just for specific YouTubers. And right now it's in beta, a couple YouTubers have it. It's under their section, the toolbar where you can go to like about, discussion, all that. There's a tab called Community. So if and when that rolls out, this is exactly the kind of thing that we would be posting on our Communities tab. However, in the end, how it works out, you'd be able to view it. So that would also be a good place to check. So, I think we can move into the questions now.
Update. Just a quick look. I guess everybody's seen it, right? But still a day and a bit left of the Teen Titans Raven Challenge. The Earth 2 Solomon Grundy is definitely coming now. He's in the early access pack, so expect him to be the next challenge. You can see that the League of Assassins gear is good until the 29th, so another couple of days before it cycles to the next one. And Ares is the current challenge. Good old tried and true Ares, who's been a little bit, become a little bit obsolete because of the number of people who can not only evade specials, but the use of the Mother Box to drain power. So, you know, his main claim to fame is being probably the most effective Special 2 specialist in the game.
Yeah, and so now you just can't rely on that team, because if you run into anybody who's gonna screw you up, you just lose, and that's never a good strategy.
Right, so if Injustice 2 Superman's first, he's useless. If Mother Box is used, the counter against that is to have him not in the first slot, but then if the fact that you need to tag him in and the new Special 2, you can't tag him back out, so the team becomes a lot less efficient, which is a bit of a drag. Ares I've always loved. We'll see. Game always changes, right?
Yeah. Anyways, moving into the questions, the first one comes from Gary1, and I guess it's more of a comment, but we would like to address it. They say, though it is possible to duplicate accounts.
So this is, it was in a specific comment relating to people who are having trouble, and I mean, it almost doesn't matter. The idea of it is applicable to a lot of different situations, and I want to at least talk about this, because yeah, it's possible to duplicate accounts. It's been possible for a long time. The problem is in the large number of situations where people are using it, so let's say somebody gets banned, they duplicate their account. Here's the problem. When you've been banned and you duplicate your account, that original account is marked in a certain way. And we know this because when you duplicate an account, if they're not banned and you switch in between them, it doesn't give you the message to say, which account do you want to pick?
Yeah, even if the stuff in it is different.
Right. So because they came from a common, I guess, ancestor, or whether they're, or what do you want to call it, related, there's something about it that the game recognizes. So when one account's been banned, the first part is it's been marked in a certain way, because when you go back in, you can go back into online play once, maybe twice, but it's registered you as being banned, and you can't bring that account back to life.
Yeah, so duplicating banned accounts, or just duplicating accounts in general, seems to be kind of dangerous, especially if you're expecting one to get banned or one has already gotten banned. If anything that's not supposed to be going on is going on with one of your accounts, you risk a danger to all of them if they've been duplicated.
Right. I mean, there's a chance that it's not. I mean, the problem with this kind of stuff is it takes a huge amount of time to test it out, but the only basic things we do know is that once an account's been banned, no matter how many times you duplicate it, the duplicated account is banned. And we also know that even an unbanned account, there's stuff there that the server recognizes as being the same by its behavior when you try to switch from one to the other. So,
yeah.
In general, other than trying to avoid account suspension, maybe I guess making another account for somebody else to play. But even then, if you, in my mind, there's a little bit of a similar risk to just giving them the account outright. That if you give it to them outright, they can screw it up. Well, if you give them a duplicate account, they can screw that up, and there may be repercussions because whether they choose to do it or not, it's possible to, I guess, mark those two accounts as being
Banned.
well, I don't know about banned yet because let's say they're still good, right? But say that they're similar, and if one thing is done on one, it might attract unwanted attention onto your other one.
Yeah, for sure. And the last question comes from Kael Harvey, and they say, "Why did you choose the name?"
Now, I know we've answered this question before, probably a few months ago, and when I tried to look through all our videos, I couldn't find it, and I guess that might have been because it was back in the time when we weren't so good about putting the topics, like chapter heads, in the thumbnail. So maybe it's worth doing again. I mean, this was way back when, right? So, back in the day of dial-up, anybody old enough to remember that? Dial-up internet service. There were a few big providers, like I guess AOL, where they'd always send you the CDs and stuff, right, to try to get you to use their service.
Where you get free internet on a disc?
Yes.
Like in cereal boxes and stuff.
Yes. And then there were a lot of small local ones, and one of the local ones in Toronto was Interlog, and they eventually got bought up, I can't remember by who, somebody big. But Interlog had a thing where, like any other internet provider, once you set up, you get an email address at interlog.com. And they had a funny sort of limitation that I think the largest number of characters that you could use, I think, was 8. And
which is not that many characters.
That's not a lot of characters. And I wanted to make something that was distinctive, and I just couldn't. Like, I couldn't actually, all the words that I could think of, all the names I could think of that were of significance, I couldn't do. So I threw a few letters together that I thought by themselves were distinctive. They'd be, nobody else would have them. And it just stuck, and since then, for I guess the last 20 years, that's been sort of our consistent online presence, our pseudonym. And we've mentioned this before, to me it's very much like XKCD, another name that has no vowels.
Except nowhere near as important or memorable to the general public.
Alright, and so since then, it's just been, it's felt like it's worthwhile keeping it across whatever platforms we're using.
Yeah, it's our account anywhere where Brian Decker hasn't already scooped it up.
So actually, one other thing I wanted to say too, just to remind people that are watching, I'm not going to push our unboxings because I've done that enough, although, anyways.
I think that's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to even talk about.
But alright, so what's one thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more of the Injustice 2 Superman. We've been doing a series of him just mowing through multiplayer online with team gear score of only 300, a couple support characters, and I think what we're going to try is maybe having guest stars, like rotating some of the characters in and out for a little bit of variety, and talk a little bit more strategy about how we plan the teams and why swapping one person out, I was going to say switch and swap, and I did both, makes a difference, and why it might be a little bit better in one way, a little bit worse, and you can't really tell until you've played it a little bit what the potential pitfalls are. So that should be coming up a little bit soon. I think we'll play around with, right now it's Red Sun, Wonder Woman, Red Sun, Superman, and it's really almost anticlimactic how he's, in Injustice 2 Superman, is mowing through everybody.
Yeah. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support, subscribing, commenting if you feel like it, liking, all of that's great. It really does help us out. So anyways, we'll see you guys next time. Komoda.